Welcome to the Astrology Show with your host, Kelly Fox. Each week, Kelly will give you access to the current transits that are a valuable tool which provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has through our sun sign. Understanding the current planetary influences each week can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. Sometimes, events in your life may seem completely random, but there is a pattern to the order of these events, one set in motion in part by you and in part by the planets and stars in the sky and their influence on your life here on Earth. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, if you're going to get that promotion, move to a new city, or fall in love, tune in to the Astrology Show for guidance. It can help you anticipate problems before they occur, give you tools to cope with changes, and help you look forward to the wonderful days ahead. Kelly Fox is a professional astrologer and internet pioneer who launched astrology.com, one of the first and most successful astrology websites. Today, her passion lies with her new site, theastrologer.com, where she brings a modern-day approach to an ancient wisdom. Please join Kelly each week to learn more about how the planets can align for you.
Hi there and welcome to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox. How are you this week? Glad that August is over and we made it through relatively safely. Well, not everyone, I guess, but more so. But of course, you know, why I'm saying that is the eclipses of August of last month sound so far away. It was only just a few days ago. But the eclipses of August, we're through that. The Mercury Retrograde, we're nearly through that. Mercury turns direct tomorrow, Tuesday. So we're almost through it. Things are almost behind us, and we're about to turn over a new leaf, so to speak. We are in September, and September in about, let me count the weeks, only 2 weeks' time. 2.5 weeks' time, we'll be celebrating the fall or the autumn if we or you are in the northern hemisphere. If you're in the southern hemisphere, this month you will be celebrating the spring equinox. But of course, I will cover that in a couple of weeks' time. So behind us are the eclipses, and eclipses are not usually an overnight one-day influence. And of course, everything always depends on where these astrological aspects trigger in your chart or influence or aspect. And if you haven't had your chart done, that's sort of like lingo of saying if you haven't had an astrologer or even an online astrology website cast your chart, your natal chart, and that is dependent on the date, time, and place of your birth, then I suggest that you go to theastrologer.com/chartwheel, which is my website. I offer free chart wheels, and then you can follow along each week on the show to see how each week's planetary influences are affecting you and your natal chart. And it really does provide a lot of insight, a lot of guidance. And so each week I talk about where the planets are and how they're affecting us and do give the astro headline of the week. And so for this week, the astrological headlines are Mercury moving out of retrograde, finally, and it will turn direct on Tuesday at 28 degrees Leo. It has been retrograde since August 12th, and typically Mercury turns retrograde 3 times a year for 3 weeks each time. Sometimes it feels like 3 months each time, depending on, again, what sign Mercury is in when it's retrograde and specifically the degree, but that's getting a bit too technical. And then also Mercury on Saturday will be moving into Leo, where it will be, will be moving into Virgo, where it will be until September 29th. So Mercury moves from Leo to Virgo on Saturday, where it will be for most of September. Also, the other headlines are warrior planet Mars moves into Virgo on Tuesday, where it will be until October 22nd. Just to double check that date. Yes, October 22nd. And then the other headline of the week is the full moon. So we are having a full moon on Wednesday, full moon in Pisces, which is at nearly 14 degrees. And this full moon will conjunct Neptune, sextile Pluto, and form a wide square to Saturn. It's a busy full moon. Not as busy as the eclipses of last month, but certainly busy. So I will cover all these influences and so much more throughout the show. And of course, at the end of the show, as always, I will give you your signs weekly horoscope. And of course, you can get your daily, weekly, and monthly horoscope on the OMTimes website. So be sure to check your daily, weekly, and monthly horoscope on the OMTimes website, and the horoscopes are by yours truly. Okay, let's take a look at Mercury, the biggest news, which I think, moving out of retrograde. Anytime Mercury moves out of retrograde, it's always big news because there's always some sort of kerfuffle when Mercury is retrograde. So let's take a look at this. So Mercury turned retrograde in Virgo on August 12th, and let me just check the degree that it turned retrograde. Oh, yes, of course, I should have remembered the degree that it turned retrograde because it was right on my Venus. So Mercury turned retrograde at 12 degrees of Virgo on August 12th. And then it moved backwards, it continued to move backwards, and of course we all know that retrograde doesn't technically mean that the planet really does move backwards. It just appears to move backwards from our perspective here on Earth, but the planet actually does slow down. So the planets do vary in their speed in their orbit around the sun. So that's why we get a retrograde effect or a backwards effect. Now, of course, that's just the technical part of it, but when a planet is retrograde, it is said that the energy of the planet also moves backwards. So not only does the planet, well, let's just say Mercury, because that's what I'm talking about. Let's just say Mercury slows down, so it looks like it's moving backwards from our perspective here on Earth, but the energy of Mercury, depending on what sign it's in, and of course it retrograded in Virgo and then continued to move backwards into Leo. So the energy of Mercury in Virgo and Mercury in Leo then got flipped around and reversed, and I will cover that in just a moment. So Mercury turned retrograde in Virgo on August 12th, and then it continued its backward or retrograde motion into Leo on August 31st. And then, yay, it turns direct on Tuesday, can't wait, and at 28 degrees Leo, which is interesting because the total solar eclipse, the Great American Eclipse that we just had, and that was on August 21st, so Monday 2 weeks ago, that solar eclipse degree was 29 degrees Leo. And the interesting thing is that we've got this Mercury retrograde turning direct very close within a degree of the solar eclipse. So you're probably thinking, well, whoop-de-doo, what about that? Well, it's significant. The degrees in astrology are very significant, and professional astrologers don't just take the sign into consideration, but definitely the degree is crucial. So there's going to be something that comes up, let's just say in the news or maybe in your life, again, depending on where the solar eclipse fell in your chart, and also this Mercury turning direct, 28, 29 degrees Leo, something will reemerge, but in a positive way and with a whole new spin. So again, get your free chart wheel from theastrologer.com/chart wheel, and then you will see if you have anything at around late degree Leo, early degree Virgo, and this will be very significant for you. So if you're looking at Mercury turning direct, it's turning direct at 28, let's just say nearly 29 degrees Leo, where we just recently had the solar eclipse. Of course, also at the 29th degree of Leo is the royal star Regulus. And so, there's thousands and thousands of fixed stars out there. Obviously, you look up in the night sky and you see the stars twinkling. Some of them are planets, most are stars. And you have some major fixed stars. And so they are measuring points, actually, for sidereal astrology, which is a whole which is a whole different calculation according to what I talk about each week is Western astrology, and that's based off the seasons, whereas you have sidereal astrology, then that is based off the fixed star points. I don't want to get too technical right now on that. I'll just try and keep it light. But basically what I'm saying is this Mercury turning direct from its retrograde motion the past 3 weeks is quite significant. So we've been in this whole really intense time throughout August with the eclipses, Uranus turning retrograde, and of course Mercury retrograde. It's quite significant with Mercury turning direct. So just a little bit about retrograde planets. So the planets all appear to move backwards in their orbit around the sun at varying speeds and at various times. Mercury, because it's the closest planet to the sun, it turns retrograde more often. Anyway, on that note, we will take a break and I will continue with this week's Astro headlines, so stay tuned.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Aloha, my name is Jennifer O'Neill, and I'd like to invite you to come join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time for my show, Spirit Chat. Spirit Chat focuses on simplifying the process of using the spiritual tools and gifts you were born with in a way that fits into your everyday life. I also teach different techniques that will help you learn how to navigate the spirit realm and empower you on your own spiritual journey. So join me this Wednesday as I guide you through the spirit world.
Hi, this is John Ondrasik of Five for Fighting, here for RAD, the entertainment industry's voice for road safety. You know, style is a personal thing, and your lifestyle is your business. But if you take it on the road, it becomes everybody's business. So please, plan ahead, designate before you celebrate. Friends, don't let friends drive drunk.
A public service announcement brought to you by RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer Kelly Fox, talking about the planets this week and the headlines of the week, and we can all breathe a big sigh of relief because Mercury retrograde will be no more as of Tuesday. Yay! So I was going on just before the break that Mercury has been retrograde since August 12th in Virgo, and that's one of its favorite signs, as the planets have favorite signs and they have their least favorite signs. And Mercury really likes Virgo and Gemini, and it's not so hot on Leo. So So it's currently retrograde in Leo, but it will be turning direct in Leo tomorrow, nearly at the point of the Great American Solar Eclipse of 2 weeks ago. So Mercury retrograde has definitely worked its way into mass consciousness. Everywhere you turn, Mercury retrograde gets the blame. So I hear it constantly. I have people constantly asking me if Mercury is retrograde, even when it is not. It is always easy to blame, and for very good reason. I have so many Mercury retrograde stories, not just my own, but from lots of other people. But typically, you know, it's when Mercury is retrograde, definitely don't ever sign a contract as much as you can. I know life can't stop when the planets slow down, but if you can avoid signing major contracts or making major decisions at that time, because Mercury is the planet of communication, it's the planet of the mind. There's always usually some sort of communication snafu, miscommunications, travel plans going haywire, and all that sort of thing. So people are now starting. I'm sort of surprised by the amount of people that actually have heard of Mercury retrograde and do know about it. And as I said, it happens about 3 times a year for about 3 weeks each time. But we're not sort of off the hook on just 3 times, 3 weeks per time. There's a shadow of the Mercury retrograde as well, which I'm laughing, but it's not funny, because it acts like the retrograde. And it's sort of like you can't escape. So the shadow of the Mercury retrograde is usually the week before and the week after. So even though I say, yeah, it's 3 weeks, it's sort of 5. But again, it all depends on where the retrograde is affecting, or where its influence is in your natal chart. So that's really the big deal, because if you follow Mercury retrogrades, or you follow along each time I'm talking about Mercury retrograde, and sometimes you'll think, oh, that one wasn't so bad, and then other times it might be, oh, that was horrendous, and I lost all my computer files, and I didn't have a backup, and all that sort of stuff. That's Mercury retrograde stuff. So also, anytime the planet, not just Mercury, but anytime another planet, particularly an inner planet, and an inner planet means Mercury, Venus, or Mars. Typically, when an inner planet is retrograde, something from the past needs to be redone. So with retrograde, especially Mercury retrograde, to help us smile and get through it, or make the most of the energy instead of it all being, oh no, it's Mercury retrograde, oh, it's doom and gloom. We can think, or we can utilize these planetary energies, and that's sort of like another reason to talk about them each week, is how is it best to utilize the energies of the planets to make the most of it. Anything starting with an RE when Mercury is retrograde. So if you want to repair, reduce, reconsider, recreate, recycle, redo, that's a really positive way of looking at this Mercury retrograde and the best way to make the most of it. So just taking care of things, really. It's sort of like it forces us, and particularly this retrograde period we're coming out of in Virgo through Leo, it's all about organisation. So things the past few weeks that we've been putting aside or not dealing with, we've sort of been forced to take care of things, particularly as we're coming out of the eclipse season. So when Mercury has been retrograde in Virgo, which is most of the time, it's all about the details. Virgo loves details. And so it's like normally, like with Mercury retrograde in Virgo, the normal laser-like focus might be a little bit diminished over these past few weeks. Details might have been an issue for many of us, escaping our attention. Details might have felt overwhelming, and so some of us might have been forced to like sift or sort through information without the usual efficiency that we might be used to. Another thing with the these past few weeks of this Mercury retrograde, specifically in Virgo, because that's where it spent most of its time, some of us might have had like a decreased sort of power of analysis and discrimination, and we might have found ourselves to be either hypercritical or criticized. Virgo, Mercury in Virgo does have a reputation for criticism. So the good news is that influence is over. It will be tomorrow. We might have found also during this period getting too hung up on the details. Losing sight of the big picture could be another issue these past few weeks. Also, so Mercury retrograde in Virgo, re-editing, redoing. It's also about math and logic and science and research and precision. And as I said, attention to detail is crucial, and there might have been something these past few weeks where we've missed the detail on something and we've had to redo it or re-edit. And also, just one more thing before I move on with that. Nervous anxiety. When Mercury comes together in Virgo, it's like sometimes we're seeking perfectionism. Something needs to be perfect, and it might have been driving us nuts that we really can't get it right or get it perfect. But, you know, I always say to someone who has a lot of Virgo influence, sometimes good enough is good enough. And hopefully we weren't too hard on ourselves with Mercury retrograde in Virgo. Now, as I said, Mercury moved retrograde from Virgo to Leo. So that's more about like passionate displays of expression and reactions, not just from ourselves, but also from others. And also we have, a lot of emotion behind the words. Virgo, Mercury in Virgo retrograde was more analytical, but Mercury retrograde in Leo is a little bit more emotional. As I said, passionate responses. It's sort of like exaggeration in some ways. You might have been dealing with that from other people. So it's important now to get on with it. Let's not hang on to something. With Mercury retrograde in Leo, it's a fixed energy, so it likes to hang on to things. This is not the time to do that. And, of course, when Mercury moves back into Virgo on Saturday, it won't be direct. It will be moving forward. So we can sort of move beyond the emotional, the passionate responses that we might have had or other people might have had, and really view things like with a logical, analytical mind, which is a huge relief. And as I said, Mercury loves being in Virgo. It's like one of its favorite signs. So when Mercury is in Virgo from, let me look at my calendar here, it is Saturday. From Saturday the 9th through September 29th, so September 9th through the 29th, Mercury will be forward in Virgo. And things that you might have had to redo or have been frustrated with, not just around communication, but around like redoing something, everything can finally fall into place between that period of September 9th through the 29th, when Mercury moves back into Virgo, its favourite sign or one of its favourite signs, and things can move forward again. And we might find at this time, when Mercury's in Virgo this month, is that nothing will escape our attention. It's a really good energy to sift and sort through information with really great efficiency and really get to the essence of what matters. Many of us will have like enhanced powers of analysis and discrimination. As I just said before, we might be a bit critical, not as bad as when Mercury is retrograde, but try not to get too hung up on the details and lose sight of the big picture. That's the only word of warning with Mercury in Virgo. The energy should flow, but it's like let's not lose sight of the bigger picture and connecting the dots. I also said that Mercury in Virgo is about math and science and analytics and anything that requires logic or precision or attention to detail. So September will be a month for that when Mercury is in Virgo. It's great for editing, perfecting any sort of processes, making plans, and then breaking like big, if you've got a really big task, this is a really great time to break it down into smaller chunks, making something more manageable. We've also got a lot more patience, but I guess not for small talk. It's sort of like, let's just cut to the chase. When Mercury's in Virgo this month, small talk, it goes right out the window. It's sort of like, let's just get straight to the point, particularly like in a work setting. And again, the only issue around Mercury in Virgo is not only losing sight of the big picture, but getting caught up on things have to be perfect. It's just think about it. It's a nice to have, something to strive towards, but it's not essential typically with Mercury in Virgo. Now, the next influence we have this week is Mars. Warrior planet Mars also moves into Virgo. That's happening tomorrow, September 5th. And Mars will be in Virgo until October 22nd. So Mars typically stays in a sign for about 6 weeks. So Mars in Virgo, Mercury in Virgo. There's a lot of Virgo stuff going on. Sun in Virgo. Let me look at my calendar here. What else is in Virgo? So we've got Sun, Mercury, and Mars. And then, and then September 19th, Venus in Virgo. Wow, that is a lot of Virgo energy. So this is September. The month of Virgo is definitely about focusing on detail. We're going to take a short break. Stay tuned. I will continue with this week's planets after the break.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Join Vibe Nation radio host, international psychic medium Carrie Turcotte, as she guides her listeners to rediscover themselves by accessing the keys of knowledge that already exist within. Each week's show is divinely orchestrated to intertwine with the universal energies, allowing the listeners to go deeper within. At the end of each show, Carrie will tap into the energies of the listeners and give a message from Spirit about the upcoming week. If you really want to get to know who you truly are, join Carrie each Monday at 3 p.m. on Vibe Nation Radio.
This is a test to find out if you know it all when it comes to children. Name one of the leading killers of U.S. children age 1 to 13. What's the best way to protect children in a car crash? At what age and size should a child start using a booster seat?
Don't assume you know it all when it comes to car seats for your child. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat and know for sure. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hi there. Welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox, talking about the planets this week. Headlines of the week. Mercury is finally moving out of retrograde. It's been retrograde Virgo, then Leo, and then it moves forward, and then it's moving on Saturday into Virgo again. Also this week we have warrior planet Mars moving into Virgo, and we have a full moon on Wednesday. I'm just checking my calendar. I feel like I'm forgetting to say something here. No, I guess Mercury directs, full moon on Wednesday, and Mercury into Virgo on Saturday, and Mars in Virgo. We have other planetary aspects that are part of the full moon, so we'll cover that when I talk about the full moon. Right now, Mars will be moving into Virgo on Tuesday, where it will be until October 22nd. So we've got a lot of Virgo energy, and was it last week's show that I dedicated to Virgo? Yes. Last week's show I dedicated to all you Virgos out there and how our world wouldn't turn if it wasn't for you Virgos. Who else is going to pay attention to the detail and do it so joyfully? Virgo. No one else would. Every other sign is just so sloppy. Virgo is just so great with detail and it's so efficient. So the world should be run by Virgos. How about that? So Mars moving into Virgo. Mars, now let me take a step back and explain more about Mars and then when it comes together in Virgo and what we can expect. So Mars is the warrior planet. It's the red planet. Red is the color of passion. Mars rules passion, our drive, our motivation. It's also our propensity for irritation. It's our urge to compete and succeed. So all of these things fall in the realm of Mars. It's also, I think of it as being a very testosterone-driven planet. And do you remember that guy, John Gray, who came out, I think it was in the 90s, and he was like, women are from Venus and men are from Mars. It was very true because in astrology, and also the symbols, Mars, when you've got the symbol for man and woman, it's Venus and Mars. And Venus is the feminine planet, Mars is the masculine planet. And actually, and when I'm looking at relationship charts, when I do readings for people who want to know about their relationship, the first two planets I look at are Venus and Mars. And I know in synastry, which is meaning compatibility, when the Venus and Mars connects in a really nice way, I know that's a really great foundation for the relationship. And then, of course, after that, the sun and moon. But so Mars is our attitude from everything from team sports to dating, to arguing, to how you go after a promotion at work. Basically, Mars is our willpower. Now, the sun is as well, but also Mars. Mars is how we motivate ourselves to do what needs to be done. And again, that's Mars. And then depending on what sign Mars was in at the time you were born, that flavors the influence of Mars. So Mars, as I always say, the planets have their favorite signs. Mars has two favorite signs, Aries and Scorpio. So Aries and Scorpio are ruled by Mars, and I have to say that in the modern world, Mars rules Aries, and before Pluto was discovered in 1930, Scorpio was assigned to Mars. But when Pluto was discovered in 1930, Scorpio was then assigned to Pluto, and its sub-ruler is Mars. So if that makes sense. So, but I still think of, and as astrologers do, that Aries and Scorpio are under the influence of Mars. That sounds sort of funny, doesn't it? I guess that's a pretty good way of saying it, like under the influence of a planet. I quite like that. And I'm thinking of bumper stickers as well, under the influence of Mars, which is actually not good for having it as a bumper sticker on a car because Mars, as I said, rules aggression and road rage. So it's like under the influence of Mars, that might be maybe it's not such a bad idea as a bumper sticker. So if you get pulled over for road rage or speeding or whatever, which is all in the Mars domain, it'd be like, oh, sorry, I'm under the influence of Mars. Okay, and if anybody out there does decide to get a bumper sticker made like that, please send me one because I think it's actually sort of cute. Okay, so back to Mars. Mars moving into, I can't even think straight now. Mars moving into Virgo on Tuesday, where it will be until October 22nd. So this is all about getting motivated around details. around all the minute stuff, the minutiae that we just don't want to do typically. Of course, unless you're a Virgo. But all the other signs, it's like now is the time to really get stuff done. Things that you've been pushing off to the side, now is the time to really, you just suddenly all of a sudden feel motivated around detail and diving into the details and sweating the small stuff. I think that might be the slogan. Now that I'm looking again at my calendar, and it's like not only will Mars be in Virgo, but Venus will move into Virgo on the 19th, and then Mercury in Virgo on Saturday, and of course the Sun in Virgo until the 22nd. So all this Virgo energy would be fantastic for diving in all about Virgo. And I'm going to tell you all about Virgo in a minute if you missed the show from last week, which was dedicated to all you Virgos out there. But with Mars in Virgo, it's all about taking charge. So taking charge and thinking about, I want to say leading the pack in some way, but it's sort of like not just diving in without a second thought. Virgo, when Mars is in Virgo, it tempers the energy of Mars. It calms it down. It gives it a rational head, and it has it thinking through things and coming up with a plan before just diving straight in. And so just as a reminder, the energy of Virgo, with so much Virgo energy this month, Virgo is symbolized by the maiden, which represents purity. So, and Virgo has a reputation of being prim and prissy and fastidious, and, because this sign seeks perfectionism. So when you couple that with the energy of Mars, which is take charge and just get it done, it's a really good energy. It's not, just think about it like this. As I said, the two favorite signs of Mars are Aries and Scorpio. When it's in Virgo, it's sort of like, ho-hum, whatever, let's just get in and get on with it. So I'm not saying the energy is not smooth, but it's just sort of, it's mediocre. It's mediocre, but really, to utilize this energy of Mars in Virgo through October 22nd, it's all about getting in and getting on with it. So when it comes together, Mars and Virgo together, it's a little bit reserved. It's not showy or pushy. The Virgo energy does tone down the Mars energy, which can be quite abrasive and brash. And just think of road rage. That's Mars, and if it's in a fire sign, which is Aries, Leo, or Sag, that's very much road rage. I'm just using an extreme example. But when Mars is in Virgo, road rage, but like with manners, if there is such a thing. Doesn't sound like a good fit, but if you know what I mean. And then Mars with Virgo. Virgo's a mutable sign, so it's very flexible and go with the flow. So the energy this month is not only detail and focusing and, getting through stuff that maybe we've been avoiding, and especially now there's no excuse that Mercury will not be retrograde. It's very much a changeable energy, like adaptable. So if we're on plan A and something comes up, we can easily change to plan B with the same energy as we had for plan A. It's like we're not fixed on one particular thing. It's more of a go with the flow just to get it done. We can be very, I keep wanting to say flowing. It seems to be the word that's popping into my head. But it is definitely a go with the flow, mutable, adaptable, flexible energy when Mars is in Virgo. And again, with all this Virgo energy, it's like try not to take things too personally when it feels like a criticism. And when we are communicating or asking somebody to do something or giving feedback, we need to be careful with all this Virgo energy that we're not coming across as being too critical, because others might be a little bit sensitive around any sort of criticism. So we just need to take a little bit of care, specifically when Mercury, planet of communication, is in Virgo, that we're not coming across as just, too much. And when I talk about the other aspects this week, on Sunday we did have Mercury conjunct Mars in Virgo. So we're under the influence this week, under the influence this week of the Mercury and Mars conjunction in Virgo. In Leo. And then, so it's all about thinking fast and speaking faster. But again, with that Mercury retrograde, there's a little bit of a slowdown or a little bit of a redoing. So when Mars is in Virgo, this is more about being behind the scenes rather than being front and center under the spotlight. As you know, as the energy has been the past 6 weeks or so, with Mars moving from Leo into Virgo. So the past month or so, it's all about the spotlight with all this Leo energy. But now things tone down a little bit. They calm down. It's more about working behind the scenes. It's about operating backstage instead of the bright spotlight, if you can think about it that way. Out of the public view, just working hard and improving circumstances. And so also when Mars is in Virgo and the other planets, Sun, Mercury and Venus this month, this is a great time to think about number crunching and the mechanics of things and how things actually work and behind the scenes and the back end of things, understanding the details and expecting practical results from efforts. So it's sort of like I keep saying this, it feels like lately, but you reap what you sow. That also seems to be a Virgo type of energy, and specifically with Mars, planet of action and energy in Virgo. So it's like expecting practical results from our efforts and also serving others. Virgo is the sign of service, and so it's helping and supporting other people. But many of us might even be feeling too modest to toot our own horn very often and go after the credit that we might have felt like doing last month. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't get any recognition for your ideas or hard work. On that note, we're going to take a break, so stay tuned.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Tune in to the Practical Intuitive, Mind, Body, Spirit for the Real World with me, host Robin Fritz, Mondays at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern. I'll cover personal and business intuition, animal communication, mediumship, space clearing, past life regression, shamanic insights, energy healing, soul choice, and more, all to help you tap your own intuitive and healing skills. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Welcome back to the Dog Show. Up next we have Satchmo. Satchmo is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right, a group known especially for their couch-snuggling, ball-chasing, face-licking, and, of course, companionship. Now, let's see him in action.
Look how he makes eye contact with his person.
That's actually known as the treat stare.
How intuitive, and now he appears to be excitedly turning in circles.
Ah, the happy dance will come in with this group.
But really, the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Satchmo is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer Kelly Fox, talking about the planets this week. Our headlines, our astro headlines of the week are Mercury finally moving out of retrograde, moves back into Virgo on Saturday. We have a full moon in Pisces on Wednesday, and just before the break I was talking about warrior planet Mars moving into Virgo. Now, this is the month of Virgo, and of course, at the end of the month, the sun moves into Libra, and then, of course, it coincides with the autumn equinox. But mostly, September is all about Virgo. So we have the sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars will all be in Virgo at various times. And I'm just looking at the calendar here, and it looks like when they're all together in Virgo, it will be only the 19th through the 22nd. So that'll be really intense Virgo. So if you're a Virgo, make the most of it with, the 4 planets in Virgo at that time. Is it a new moon? Oh, my goodness, and the moon as well. Yes, because we're going to have a new moon in Virgo on the 19th. Wowee. So we've got the sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars on the 19th. So I'll make sure that I really push that point on the 18th on the show. So in 2 weeks' time, it'll be all about Virgo again, because last week's show was dedicated to Virgo. So just before the break, I was talking about Mars in Virgo. Mars will move into Virgo tomorrow, where it will be until October 22nd. And so Mars is a planet of action and motivation, and Virgo is great with detail. So when you put those two together, those two energies together, this will be a fantastic time to focus on the detail, but of course don't lose sight of the bigger picture. Great time for organisation. Also, many of us, it'll be a natural time for facts and figures. So if you need to get your accounting in order or your bookkeeping, fantastic time to do it. So pay attention to getting things done. Also, it's a good time to focus on health. Virgo is the sign of health, diet and fitness, and Mars gives us energy. So this is all about if you're really looking to start a new health regime, this will be the time to do it. And I don't just mean signing up for a gym membership. Virgo is the sign of nutrition. Virgo rules the stomach and the digestive system. So this is the time for an overall health, what's the word? Not check-in, but change, I guess, with the power of the recent solar eclipse being very close to the 1st degree of Virgo. It'd be a fantastic time for many of us to start a new health and diet program. Diet and fitness, where if you need to make an adjustment to your diet and what you eat, of course, always check with your doctor, but this would be a really, really good time to do that. Also, Virgo is a sign that has a reputation of having a lot of nervous energy, and you can blame its planetary ruler, Mercury, on that. But nervous energy. So it's a time, if there's any sort of like meditation or anything that you can do to calm down that hyped up energy with all these planets in Virgo, that would be a great time. This month would be a great time to do that as well. The other thing with Virgo that not many people know is they're crafts people. Anybody with any sort of Virgo influence, or even if you are a Virgo, if you're good at making things with your hands, good at putting things together, any sort of arts or crafts falls into the realm or the domain of Virgo. With Mars, action planet Mars being in Virgo until October 22nd, it's a wonderful time for making things with your hands and tidying up your workspace and clearing out clutter. It's a good time just to be productive. So how will Mars and Virgo be affecting your sign? Well, if you're an Aries, double boost about health and fitness. If you're a Taurus, the focus will be on romance and courtship. Gemini, home and family. Cancer, and this is like the energy behind these areas of your life. There'll be more energy. If you're a Cancer, this is all about learning and communication, siblings and neighbours. Leo, it's about money, counting the pennies, but in a good way. Virgo, if you're thinking about making a change to your appearance, this would be the time to do it. If you're a Libra, focus on your dreams and your subconscious mind. Scorpio, friends will be important this month, and acquaintances, groups, online, offline. If you're a Sagittarius, the focus for you this month will be on career. Pay attention to the details of work. If you're a Capricorn, anything to do with overseas, make sure the details are covered there. If you're an Aquarian, it's all about big money, gain, taxes, inheritance, insurance. Pay attention to the detail. And finally, if you're a Pisces, the details will be around your relationships. And if you're signing an agreement for a business partnership, make sure that you read that contract 5 times over and have an expert do it as well. Now, the next influence we have for this week is the full moon in Pisces. So on Wednesday, we have a full moon in Pisces at nearly 14 degrees. This full moon conjuncts Neptune, it sextiles Pluto, and it forms a wide square to Saturn. So this is known as a T-square. So this can be quite challenging, this influence, particularly for the mutable signs, and those Gemini, Virgo, Sag, and Pisces. So the T-square, you've got the Sun in Virgo and the Moon and Neptune in Pisces forming an opposition, and then both form a square to Saturn in Sagittarius. And as I said, this affects the mutable signs more so, or people that have planets in mutable signs. And that's anyone born between May 29th to June 9th, or anyone with planets between 10 and 20 degrees Gemini. So I'm getting very specific around that, but it really is quite intense because we've got the involvement of Saturn forming a T-square to the full moon, which also involves Neptune. So what that means is basically, I guess, we can't just be haphazard about something. Neptune's sort of like, whatever goes, whereas Saturn is the voice of authority. It's like, no, I don't think so. You need to follow the rules and follow the way things have always been done. So in other words, don't buck authority this week. Full moons typically are intense, alone, like by themselves, without the involvement of a square from Saturn to form a T-square, or the conjunction of Neptune with the moon. Oh dear, yes. So particularly for the mutable signs. So it's pretty intense. This full moon, of course, nothing compared to the eclipses, but this full moon is pretty intense because of the involvement of Neptune and Pluto, and Neptune and Saturn. And I think as well, it's all about detail versus not detail, big picture versus detail. I really think that's the theme of this full moon, specifically with the Neptune-Saturn involvement, because you've got the full moon in Pisces, which is all about seeing the big picture and, details, whatever. But, with the opposition of the Sun in Virgo, it's about, no, you need to pay attention to the details. Otherwise, there could be a bit of a problem. And, with the shadow of the Mercury Retrograde, that's always an issue around details. In other words, pay attention to the details. And on that note, here's your weekly horoscope. If you're an Aries, Mars is a big boost to your job search efforts if you're seeking new employment, because it's changing sign this week. Even if you're not looking for a new job, you might be tempted to test the waters. Don't undersell yourself, because you do have so much to offer. And now is not the time to be shy. And not that you sort of really ever are, Aries. If you're a Taurus, it isn't like you to run wild, but you feel like abandoning caution and just seeing where life takes you. And why not? But don't take risks with your personal safety or your money. But a few exhilarating moments might actually do you good, Taurus. If you're a Gemini, what can you do to make your home more of a castle? It's a good time to focus on renovations and repairs because Mercury is just about to change direction, and any sort of home improvement. But do put your safety first, of course, and call in an expert if you're not sure what you're doing. If you're a Cancer, Restless energies may make it difficult for you to feel settled, but on the plus side, you'll enjoy plenty of exercise. But even if you do wear yourself out, sleep might be elusive. So try to meditate in order to calm your mind. If you're a Leo, you know that must-have item. Must you really have it, and are you sure? Mars is driving you towards impulse spending, and you'll have plenty of time to regret it when the bills come in. Try to stick to a budget, even if you feel well off. Now, if you're a Virgo, this is definitely your month, of course, and with Mars in your sign, you will feel on top of the world and much more confident than usual. Take the lead both at work and in your personal life. Don't sit back and wait for anyone else. You've got this. If you're a Libra, your biggest battle now may be with yourself. As Mars stirs up deeply held emotions and long-buried memories, you feel psychologically drained. Stick close to those who love and understand you, and don't be afraid to ask for help. If you're a Scorpio, you want to change the world, you can't do it from the comfort of your living room. So maybe you should volunteer your time for a cause close to your heart, whether it's charitable or political. Taking action will empower you, and it's fun too. If you're a Sag, well, welcome to the spotlight. The world is watching how you perform, but the good news is that you're more than up to the job. If you're a Capricorn, study issues need your attention. If you're an Aquarius, watch out that assertiveness isn't seen as aggression. And finally, if you're a sweet Pisces, Mars stirs up passions in your house of love. So head out for a romantic break with your lover this week. That's it from me. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox, and this has been The Astrology Show. Have a great week.